Hello, Atticus authors. Welcome or welcome back to the Atticus Training Zone here on YouTube. And it is also streaming live on Facebook. If anybody in our community is joining us from there, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today. Now, I can see we have a lot of people already in the chat box saying hello. So hello, Naomi, if you're still here, welcome. Sarah, you're so welcome. I'm very excited for this workshop. I really hope it helps a lot of people. Hello, Anne from South Africa. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. We've got Rick from Colorado, Lisa in Texas, Joe, Team A's Life. Welcome, welcome, Laura and Jean. We got a couple of people coming from Colorado. Melody Rose, welcome. It's so nice to have you here. Savannah, welcome. Let's see. Oh, we've got someone from Nanaimo, BC, my old stomping grounds. I'm so glad I could be running this workshop with you guys. I'm very, very excited for this information that we're going to be sharing. I guess before I get too far, I should make sure you guys can all hear me. If you can just let me know in the comments box so I'm not talking and nobody can hear me. We've got Liz and Naomi and Pearlife and Storia from Switzerland. Welcome, welcome. Nicola from the UK. We've got Brent Monk. We got John and Rayanne, and wow, so many people. I don't think I can keep up. Welcome to everybody here. Wow, the comments just keep going on. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom. It sounds like everybody can hear me. Great sound. That's awesome. Thank you very much for letting me know. I'm gonna just jump right in. I value your time, and my last couple live streams have gone over an hour, so I'll try to keep this a little bit more timely this time. However, I am here to answer your questions, so feel free to pop them in the comments box. I will try to keep up along the way. This is the kind of demo, tutorial, informational workshop that I can stop and pause and answer your questions along the way. But the reason I'm sure you guys are all here is because KDP has recently announced that they'll be changing their print cost pricing structure. And I know as self-publishing authors, our first instinct is to groan and complain and be frustrated because they're taking some of our valuable profits away. I know those margins can be small to begin with, and having to consider losing some of them, it can be a big deal. But in all honesty, KDP has not increased print costs for a long time. All other print producers have. So really, they're just trying to keep up with the cost of production themselves. I completely understand this. And they're making a few other changes as well, which if we as the self-publishing authors can be strategic about how we format and produce our books, we can maximize those profits in ways that we maybe hadn't even considered previously because it was so standardized and the pricing was set. But now we have options, and this may end up being a really exciting thing for you as authors. So I'm going to talk about KDP, but really this is good for formatting any books. In the description box below on YouTube, I have included a link to KDP's FAQs regarding their print costs themselves. So I'm not going to go over all of what you see in that FAQs there. You are welcome to go and read it. I highly encourage you do go and read it. But what I'm going to focus on today is helping you learn how to maximize every single page in your book so that you can make the most profit possible. So I'm going to be sharing my screen with you, and I'm going to be working with two tools today. Of course, we're going to be using Atticus. It comes in extremely handy for experimentation and adjustments to maximize these print costs. But I'm also going to share with you a new tool that we now have on the Atticus website, which helps you calculate the royalties that you'll make from your books on KDP specifically. So I'm going to come in here and share my screen. You should see my Atticus dashboard or open book formatting tab here. And then if I switch over, this is the new tool that we have just created for Atticus and for authors. I have linked this in the description box below on YouTube as well. But if you go to Atticus, it's atticus.io/Amazon-royalty-calculator. So this is a very cool calculator. I'm just going to refresh it so it goes back to all the defaults here. This is based off of Amazon's calculations. So it's all their data. We're just making it really easy so that you can come and do calculations for yourself. This workshop is going to deal specifically with the print costs. So I'm going to be working with paperback, but you can also do all of the same steps with hardback if you are publishing to hardback as well. They have some different regulations for how many pages are minimum, maximum, but you can put all of your information in there. One of the really neat things with this calculator is you can see down here, we have the before Amazon update. So this new pricing structure will come into effect on June 20th. So this graph here shows you what your profit is currently, but you can change that to after June 20th so that you can see what it will look like after the price increases come, and you can make adjustments before then. One of the main differences is that it used to be when you publish a print book to Amazon, there was just a fixed cost and then your page counts, and you would have your book and it would just give you a royalty rate. They are now changing the structures so that you have a standard book trim size, and that will be one cost, and then a large trim size. Large trim applies to anything that is 6.12 inches by 9 inches or larger. So a lot of authors who are publishing just standard novels tend to fall into the 6x9 or lower category. Anything above that is going to have a bit of a price increase, and we're going to talk about some of the strategies that you can use here. The other change is that Amazon is setting a fixed cost for a certain amount of pages, and then any pages above and beyond a certain level will be an increased price per page. So there are some different strategies that you can take to reduce the page count in your book to really maximize your profits. There are some times when you may want to increase the page count because you're spending the same amount anyways to print a book, so why not include more pages? And then there are also times when you may want to adjust the trim size of your book because either going up or down may make a big difference to your book. So we're going to be talking about all of those things today, and I'm going to show you how you can use Atticus to experiment and use this calculator at the same time to plug in the data and see what's going to be the most profitable for you. So I'm going to quickly jump back to the comments to see if hopefully everybody's following. As far as the changes, again, you can read all about the changes on the FAQs page on KDP. I really want to help you learn what you can do about those changes and maximize it. So let's see. Jerry says, I don't see why this is such a big deal. Just raise my prices a little. Maybe I'll learn something in this video to change my mind. Raising prices is always an option. Again, Amazon's raising their prices in order to compensate for increased production costs. So as authors, it's entirely in your right. Every business does this. You increase your price as cost of productions increase. So increasing price is an option. However, there's so many other ways to maximize your profit that you may find yourself doing a variety of solutions. Crystal says, trim, spacing, font, pages will affect print costs, and we can tweak these to determine what can give us more favorable royalty. Absolutely. That is a big part of what I will be showing you and how Atticus can help with that today. So that's great. I'm not sure, Steve, I don't see the live web version, or I'm not sure what that is in reference to. But if anybody is having trouble with the live stream, we do have a replay of everything. So it will be available on YouTube afterwards. It will absolutely be there. Tim says, I just did the calculator and my print costs will be 40% higher. If I need physical copies of my books for events, I presume I should buy large stock now before prices go up. That is absolutely one option. KDP has been very clear to say that this will affect author copies as well. So yes, if you are selling in person, stocking up ahead of time is not a bad plan. So let's jump in to Atticus. So first of all, I'll show you this royalty calculator here. So you can choose, as I showed you, the type of book you're having, whether your interior is going to be black and white or color. One of the other changes has to do with the color. They're now splitting this into two categories as well. You can go standard color, which is the base price and will actually reduce costs for some books that were printing in full color previously, or you can go with premium color. So if you're printing children's books or cookbooks or coffee table books or anything with an image that really needs to be high quality, you are going to want to go with the premium color, but it will increase your costs. I'm not going to touch too much on color right now, but I do think that it's important for you to know if you have one single page that you print in color, that sets the whole entire book as a color book. So just be very aware of that. And if you are using images in the print version of your book, it may be a good idea to convert them so that they're grayscale and can print in black and white. So here is where you will put in the page count for your book. You can change your marketplace if you're not primarily using Amazon.com. I'm going to stick with .com for the purposes of this workshop. And then this is where you can enter your book price. This is what you will be selling your book for, whether that is currently or if you want to test updating the prices and what that will look like. And again, before or after June 20th. So we'll start with before. So this shows what print costs would be kind of like right now. And then again, the standard trim size is anything 6x9 or smaller. Large trim size is anything 6.12 by 9 or larger. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into Atticus. I have a box set here. I wanted to make sure it had kind of a larger page count so that we have a lot of room to play and you can see the differences, but this is just an example book. The first thing that you're going to want to do is obviously open your book, find the theme that you're using, and click the three dots underneath the theme and just click edit. And this way you can make some changes and check out the page count and what it does to your page count with each step along the way, and pop any of those differences into the royalty calculator as you go. If you don't want to save it, just don't press the save button. You can click anywhere off the page or discard if you don't want to keep these settings. Or what you can do is duplicate your theme and just test on a separate copy of the theme and make your test that way. So this is a test theme for me anyways, so I don't mind editing it. To get your page count, what you'll want to do is come up here above the previewer and change from the default iPad to print. Now, with every single change you make in your book, whether it's adding a sentence or changing any of the settings that I'm going to go through, that can make a difference on your page count. And that is why the print preview will have to re-render the preview of your book with every single change. So while you're working through this process, you will need to be a little bit patient. It should only take a few seconds between each change. Because I'm live streaming, it may be a little bit longer than average for me here now. But you can see it's got my print preview here. The number in parentheses under the print preview, that's your total page count. So that is what you will put into the Amazon royalty calculator. So right now I have it at 327 pages. So I'm just going to pop this into the calculator here. And then the other thing I'll need to know is what I have my print book set at. So it is currently a trim size of 5x8, which is standard. So if I were publishing this book right now today, and I listed it at a price of $9.99, my royalty rate would be 12%. So I would make $1.22 for every single book sold. So that is a profit. I can save this theme and go from there. After June 20th, remember that's $1.22, 12% royalty rate. After June 20th, that brings my royalty earnings down to $1.07, and my rate went down to 11%. That's not a huge difference. For a lot of books, the difference will be much, much bigger than that. So now I'm going to show you a few things that you can do to adjust the page count. I'm going to start with the most obvious and the biggest potential changes. So since we're already in the theme, I've scrolled down already to the print settings area. This is fairly obvious, but all of these settings will make a big difference. This currently is set to the font Liber Baskerville. Changing your font can make a huge impact on your book. All font sizes are different. So if I change from Liber Baskerville to, say, Laura, I'm currently at 327 pages. If this is the only change that I make, I'm going to change it and give the previewer just a moment to recalculate the page count here. So again, because I'm streaming, it is a little bit slower than normal. Oh, I changed the wrong setting. Okay, so this is my header and footer. I want the body font, sorry. So going back, if my body font, sorry, the header footer is the lines above and below your content. If you change that, it may make a difference as well, but probably not nearly as much as changing the entire body font. So sorry for that. Quickly, I'm just going to let it recalculate. So with Liber Baskerville, I've got 347 pages actually. So I'm just going to update this here, 347 pages with my initial font. And if I change that to Laura, then that would drop down to 327. So that was a 20-page difference just for changing the font itself. Now, of course, that is going to be a major decision that you need to make as an author if that is worth it to you. But let's see what the difference is there. So 83 cents at 347 pages, 83 cents per book versus $1.07. So you get an extra 20 cents for every book sold. That adds up fairly quickly. Another thing that you can do in the kind of obvious category of changes is clearly change your trim size. So I currently have this set at 5 by 8 inches. If I increase it to 6 by 9, it's still going to be within the standard trim size for Kindlepreneur's, or sorry, KDP's new pricing structure. But having a larger book is going to mean more words per page and therefore fewer pages. So if I change this to 6 by 9, we're going to go from 327 pages down to just letting it calculate here. $261 pages. So that made a healthy difference. So from 327, we're making $1.07 per book. And if I change that to 261, we're now making $1.86 per book. So again, changing the font size and the trim size has made a dollar difference between those two different settings. Again, you will have to make this decision for yourself as an author, but it is an important consideration. Now, if you go the flip side, and let's say you had previously been publishing your book under the slightly different trim size of 6.14 by 9.21, your costs would, let's switch this to before. Currently, we'll change it to large trim. Right now, this isn't differentiated, but you would have 254 pages currently. Before the update, you would be making $2.09 per book with these settings. Again, of course, you're going to change these for your particular settings. But because it is changing to the large trim increased cost after, we're going to go from $2.09 down to 67 cents. That is huge. So the difference between that and just decreasing the size slightly to 6.9, even though, or 6 by 9, even though that does add a few pages, the difference is minimal in comparison to using the large trim size. So keep this in mind for anyone who is using non-standard trim sizes that are above 6 inches in width. This could be the biggest change for you. Of course, if you are printing a workbook and it has to be, say, 8 by 10 or 8.5 by 11, or you have a children's book and you need it that square 8.5 by 8.5, these are extenuating circumstances. But if you are closer, particularly if you're at that 6.14 trim size, that can be a major, major difference, game changer for you. So those are the most obvious ways that you can reduce your page count and keep your print costs in check, and how you can use Atticus to just test out what the difference is going to be like based on the different page counts and the calculator. I have many more tips and tricks to share with you, but I'm going to quickly come back to the comment section and see what you guys thought of that so far. Let's see. Naomi says, I heard that color is a little cheaper. The standard color is going to be a little bit cheaper. Yes, absolutely. I believe, if I have it correct, they're changing the standard color to an inkjet printer, which is cheaper to print. The premium color will increase in price. Mystic Phoenix asked, where is this calculator? This is on the Atticus website. It is linked in the description box in the YouTube channel, but it is atticus.io/Amazon-royalty-calculator. Okay, so, but now you're at alarm. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I think I was showing there. Do I have to republish the book if I change the font size after it's been published? Yes, you do. If you make any changes to your print book, you have to update it in Amazon. You don't necessarily need to delete the book and republish under a new title or anything, but you do need to update the file and change your trim size and details in KDP. Another thing to keep in mind is some of these changes are obviously going to impact your book cover. So if you're changing the trim size of your book, or if you're dramatically increasing or decreasing the page numbers, you will likely have to adjust your book cover. So that is also going to be something you'll have to change in KDP itself. If anybody is having any specific issues with Atticus, I won't be able to help with those on this workshop here, but you can always write into our support and we'll be able to help you out there. It seems like a couple of people can't log into Atticus. I'm not sure if you are Atticus owners. To use app.atticus.io, you do have to own Atticus. The calculator is available for anybody to use, though. But again, if you're having any troubles with Atticus, write into support and they'll be able to help you there. This workshop is going to be more informational than anything. Pat says this is making sense. That's great. Danny asks how to delete header and footer info. Okay, so this is one of the additional tactics that you can do to reduce page count potentially. I'm going to get into that, but before I do, I'm just going to continue with some of the changes you can make in your theme here. So I'm just going to jump back into Atticus. Feel free to keep asking your questions in the comments box below as I go through some of these other options. I will come back to any comments there. So we've gone over font size and trim settings. Those are, like I said, those are the most obvious changes. And that is in the print settings of Atticus. If we go underneath that to advanced settings, there are a few things here which can also make an extreme difference on your output. I want to make sure I've gone back to 6.9 because I think we're all in agreement that the standard print size is really where we want to be working from. So I'm on 6 by 9 book here. Under advanced settings, You can adjust your margins. So this is the outside and inside margins of your page. If you are playing with your margins to reduce the page count, you want to be very, very careful to make sure that you still meet the minimum. So you want to be sure that none of your content is going to get lost in the crease. If you have too small margins, KDP simply won't publish it. They will trigger a warning. So while you can adjust the margins, I would say that would be like kind of a last case scenario. Some things that are going to have an even bigger impact with very little visual difference is the line spacing specifically. So currently my book is set to 1.75 for the line spacing. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it in the live stream, but you can obviously play with this in your own Atticus account. So if I go from 1.75 line spacing down to 1.5, I go from 261 pages down to, I'm going to pop that in here, 261. And standard. So often the bigger difference it makes, the longer it takes to calculate. So we went from 261 pages down to 234 pages just by changing the spacing in between your lines. And honestly, you can barely notice. You can barely see the difference in the print book itself. But let's see what difference that makes on the cost calculator. So we go from 261 with a profit of $1.86 per book. And then we're going to do 234, which gives us a profit of $2.18. So a significant difference there for something that barely had a visible effect. You may disagree with me, but it really didn't have very much of effect. Obviously, if you go down all the way to a single space in your line spacing, it will be more visually obvious. This looks very cramped, and this is a decision that you will also have to be careful when you're making. You want to make sure that any adjustments you make to maximize your profits don't come at the expense of reader comfort. It's not going to help you if you all of a sudden start getting negative reviews because you've got tiny little font and no spacing in between the words, even if it does mean you jump your royalty rate up to 27%. I mean, that's huge. We'd all love to have lovely percentages like that. You can, of course, increase your book price too. So I was priced very low for the tutorial, but I'm just going to go back to $9.99 because that's what we started at. Obviously, increasing book price depends on your book as well, but you could see what a difference that made. However, it really does impact readability, and you don't want to do anything that extreme. The other thing you can try is going down just 1 point in your font size. So if I go from 12 points down to 11 points, I am now at, I don't remember what it was before. Sorry, guys. I think it was at about 18% or 20%. I think it went up to 20% profit rate. So now I'm at 219, and now we're at 24% profit. So it does make a big difference. The font size is a little bit more obvious, but from 11 till 12 is not a huge difference. So it really depends where you're starting at and how much wiggle room you have there and who your readers are as well. Always keep them in mind. So those two settings, the font size and line spacing, can make a really, really big difference on your page count, but there are even more things that you can do. So if we start at the top and just go through our theme settings, the chapter heading settings here can make a difference as well. So you can see I have an image element. It's quite large. It really doesn't have to be that large. Everyone who's got their images in here is going to have to make that decision for themselves, as mentioned. But if I just shrink the cost or the size down to, say, 30% here, we're going to go from, 219 pages down to waiting for it to calculate here. There, down to 215 pages. So that is not as big of a difference, but every little bit, as you're working through these extra settings, every little bit can reduce it by a page or two, which can make a difference to the overall output. Again, you need to judge the effect that it's going to have on your book. If I were to delete the image altogether, we would go from 219 down to, let's see here, 206. So at this point, what you would want to do is decide, well, I'm currently at 24% royalty rate. If I remove the image, it brings me to 25%. Is that royalty rate, is that 1% important enough that I want to remove this visual element from my book? For some of you, maybe it is. For others, having that image in there has a greater impact and maybe improves the reader experience or really just wins over your book. So you have to make that decision yourself. The same is true if you add or remove, say, the chapter number or adjust the title size. So if I have my, that's my chapter number. Say I don't need a chapter number here. I'm happy with just the chapter title. And I'm thinking that 34 points is a little bit large for a chapter title. So I'm going to go down to 28 points for my chapter title. And that will bring me to, sorry about all the waiting in between. Like I said, this is you'll have to have a little bit of patience as you're going through this, but in the end, it should be worth it. I mean, this is about as easy as book formatting comes, just making small adjustments like this, and then you can put it back as needed, and it will do all the calculations for you. Of course, because I'm live streaming, it is taking a little bit longer. So it's loading here. I might be overwhelming my system with all of these things. I think I'm just going to do a quick refresh. I will have to start from scratch with editing this, but you guys are following along. So it's just a little bit much for my computer because I'm making all of these changes. So what I had done last time was take off the chapter number. We don't need that. And reduce the title size down to 28. Let's see if it loads a little bit better this time. Oh, and I had the image down to about 30%. Okay. Still calculating. Sorry, guys. There we go, 320 pages. So with those changes, and this was if I had removed the image. If you're keeping track, really, it's just you make these adjustments and you kind of see what you like. But little things with the rest of the themes, they're going to make smaller page count differences compared to changing the trim size or the line spacing like I showed you. But again, the little things will add up. Some other options that you can do, one of the other kind of bigger impact things is if you have your paragraphs set to spaced and you change them instead to indented, which is still industry standard, by the way. It's really a preference. But again, don't compromise on your priorities. These are just things that if you don't really care one way or the other, readers don't usually care, depending on it. Some specific genres are pretty particular, but that brought me down to 292 pages. So from 320, I'm at 12% down to 292. That brings me up to 15%. So again, just that one little change, taking out the spaces and replacing them with indents, made a pretty significant impact on my book. If you have the ornamental seam breaks, this is going to be similar to if you have image elements. You can play with the size of these. If you have 2 or 3 different images in your book in each chapter, putting the size down 10% won't make too much of a visual difference, but it can make a big impact on the page count because you're reducing that sizing for each one of those elements. This particular book of mine, I don't actually have a whole lot of scene breaks. So even if I change my width, it's not going to change my page count, but you can do this on your book and see if it makes a difference to you. Under the notes settings, for the PDF, you have the choice of having it either as footnotes, end of chapter, or end of book. If you play with these settings, if you're using notes in your book, only if you're using notes in your book. If you don't have notes, it won't make a difference. But if you were using, say, end of chapter notes, and you have footnotes in every single chapter, but maybe only one or two, you're taking up an entire page for each of those one or two notes for every chapter. If you were to switch that to end of book, or sometimes even footnotes where it appears on the same page, if you change it to end of book, you're going to make it only one page or maybe 2 pages, depending on your notes, for the entire book, as opposed to an entire separate page for every chapter of your book. So that can impact your page count quite a bit as well. And that brings us full circle all the way back to the print settings, which is where we started. So when you've made any changes and you've decided you've got the perfect formula for your margins and your profits, you just want to always make sure to save your theme once you have it set up how you want it. If you click the little heart icon, you can rename your theme if you want this like post changed or whatever you want. You can change your theme title. The heart icon is going to bring it up to the front of the line here for you, so it's easy to find. Now I'm going to quickly jump into the content area of Atticus and answer the question that was asked in the comment section. How do you remove the header or footer? So in my print preview here, I don't have the header or footer because it is the first page of the chapter. If I change it to the second page, you can see up here is my name and the page number. This is how I have my book set up, to have all the information in the header. If I don't want that to show on my chapters, I can click the gear icon below the title and choose hide header and footer. And so now if I go, it removes it. Now, in my book, that did not change the page count because the header and footer are actually built in. So whether you're showing text there or not, this space is there. So this is really a preference for visually if you like it or not. Where this can make a difference is if you are using slightly tighter line spacing or have just less white space on your page overall, or smaller margins, anything like that. If there's less white space, removing the header footer can just make the page feel a little bit more open. Do it at your own risk, however, because it is industry standard to have a header and footer. Readers are used to this. Page counts, Amazon does require you to have pagination in your book. So if you remove the header footer for all of your chapters, they could flag your book and refuse to publish it for you. So you do want to keep those factors in mind. A few other things that you can do is if you have some chapters where you maybe don't need this whole chapter heading, it's just a page, or you've inserted a page break or something like that, you can click these this gear icon and hide the chapter heading entirely. If you really want to kind of save that space and don't even want to have the chapter heading at all, you could always put your chapter title in the body content and apply a subheading to it. If you have a subheading, that's going to drop the first sentence formatting to the next line, and you could use that as a title. If you were really concerned about this, that is an option for you. You could use a subheading instead. Obviously, in my opinion, that's a little bit extreme. You probably don't need to do that for the price differentiation, but it is really up to you as an author. So there you go. Those are a few tips and tricks for reducing page counts and really optimizing your print costs. after Amazon makes its changes. So I'm going to jump back into the comment section here and see what you guys are all saying. There's lots of comments here. I just have to find my place. If you change the book cover, don't you need a new ISBN? To be quite honest, I'm not 100% sure about that. You will want to check that out. I'm in Canada myself, and we get free ISBNs. So our rules and regulations are a little bit different here, but you would want to look into that. I can't answer that one for you. Okay, so comment on if you were in the middle of a series. So I'm assuming this means that you already have, say, 3 books in your series published, and you've got another couple coming out, and you want them all to match. Honestly, this is going to be up to you and your profit margins and what your priorities are, but you have the choice of continuing to print exactly as you were, and you'll just have to take the price increases as they come, or you can republish the first books in the series so that it matches moving forward. Honestly, that would be my recommendation. That would be what the course of action I would take if the price difference is a big thing. So if you had your trim size at that 6.14, which is now bumping up to the large trim size, for example, going down to 6x9 is going to make a really big difference in your print costs. And all of these costs are going to affect everything in your, even books that are currently published. So you may want to relaunch your books, republish them, reformat and republish all of your books, and then continue the formatting from there. If you are using Atticus, it makes it really, really easy to do this. If your books are already in your account, it's just the matter of changing the theme once and then applying it to your other books and exporting. Again, you will have to adjust your cover, but that way you can match them. An alternative would be just moving forward. If the costs of getting your cover redone outweigh the benefits of the difference in your print costs, for example, your future books could simply be a slightly different size. There are many, many major authors who do this on occasion. It can upset readers to some degree. A lot of people like to have a matching set on their bookshelves, but really you have to do what's best for you as an author. If it's something as little as the 6.14 to the width to the 6-inch trim size, probably not that noticeable for users. They may not even comment on it. If you're going from like 8.5 by 11 down to 5 by 8, that would be a dramatic change. But authors do that as well. So you really have to do what's going to be best for your career as an author. What is the page number that will start the price going up? Is it 150? I actually believe it is 110. At about 110 pages, so if we put this to 105, we've got 37%. And the calculator does tell you as well. It gives you some insights down here. So at 105 pages, the printing fees on this book are going to be the same, even if I added 3 pages. So if I go up to 108, my royalties don't change. If I go up to 109, that's when it changes a little bit. So the calculator will show you there, but I guess it's 108. Another thing that I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you have a book that's say 100 pages and it's going to be the same cost for you to print it, even if it's 108 pages. So if you added 8 pages, you may want to add those 8 pages into your book, whether that is an extra call to action, whether it is a few strategic images in your book, anything that will invite your reader in more. Maybe increase your about the author page, tell them a little bit more about your story, add a synopsis at the end of your next book or a teaser chapter. add some character art, anything that's going to give the reader a better experience. If you're paying the same amount anyways, it is something to consider. Atticus does have a selection of preset layouts to give you kind of some ideas. Putting a blurbs page in there with some of your reviews, that can be a real selling point, especially if your book's in, say, bookstores or libraries in addition to Amazon. If it's one of the first pages in your book, as readers kind of go through the look inside feature or physically handle the book, and they see that other people are have read and reviewed your book and see these great comments, that can impact their buying decision. So if you can increase the quality and the perceived value of your book, even doing things like maybe add a couple book group questions at the end of your book, that sort of idea, it can really increase your the perceived value, essentially. And if you're paying the same for it, why not? According to the calculator, 6x9 is still considered large. You have to change this yourself. So 6.12 inches by 9 is considered large. So standard is 6x9. Choose large trim if your book is 6.12 or larger. So that's when you would want to change that. I hope that makes sense. Let's see here. Have the themes changed? Yes, we had an update. Gosh, just over a week ago now, we did change some of the themes. Not necessarily the themes, but just how you work with the themes. There are a few live streams on that. And if you go to atticus.io/tutorials, we do have a tutorial walking you through how to customize themes now. So definitely check that out. It's made everything just a little bit more efficient for you, and I hope you enjoy that change. Team A has asked, so are you saying printing in standard color will be cheaper than black and white? No, sorry, printing in standard color will be cheaper than printing in full color is currently. So let's jump over. Let's change this to color, and I'm going to say before June 20th. So I've got it. There's only one option. It's either color or black and white currently. So the color cost currently you would be paying, or your royalty rate for this particular book. Let's bump this up to $150. Oh, it also tells you the minimum list price that you're allowed to do for that book. So let's say it's $11.99, 150 color pages for standard trim size. My royalty rate is currently 8%. After June 20th, if I do standard color, I'm going to increase the earnings. Standard color will be a price drop from color as it is currently. However, the quality of the color print, just standard color print, is nowhere near the same as the premium color. So if you are publishing children's books or anything that really needs those images to pop, you are still going to want to go premium color, and then you really need to adjust your prices up here. So in order to kind of break even, Amazon will require it to be $17.92 for the very same book that was, I think, like, what did it say? The minimum previously, I think it was about $10 for regular color. So something to keep in mind, but black and white is always going to be the most cost-efficient method. Great suggestions. I'm so glad. I hope it's helpful. I hope it helps you all make some profitable decisions moving forward with your changes. Is there going to be anything about categories on this live? I'm not going to touch on the categories in this live. No, that is another major change that Amazon is doing, but it doesn't really affect, like Atticus can't do anything about those categories. If you guys are Publisher Rocket owners, absolutely it will affect you. And Kindlepreneur has just released a video about the new categories update. So if you want to learn more about the changes to categories, definitely check out Kindlepreneur, both on the website and the YouTube channel. Dave Chesson has released a video about that. But unfortunately in Atticus, we don't deal with anything regarding categories, so won't be going over that here. These make perfect sense and not too difficult to do. That is one of the main reasons that I wanted to come on and do this live, because I know it can be really overwhelming when something changes and you're not, it's going to have a big impact, but you don't really know what to do about it. So I really wanted to show you how easy Atticus can make it to help you make these decisions about your book. And you can see in real time what the visual differences are going to be and what impact that is going to have on your bottom line, and make your decisions that way. And we've been on not even an hour. So if you can take an hour out of your life to make all of these adjustments and experiments yourself, it will really pay off in terms of your author career and all of your books moving forward. So it is certainly worth it to do. If any of you are watching this and you don't have Atticus yet, atticus.io, you're going to want to go and get yourself a copy. Deborah says, so helpful. I'm so glad. Thank you. Laura says, according to KDP, they will warn us if any of our previously published books will be in the negative royalty share. Yes, they will. They don't want you to publish books if it's going to be in the negative, because then they have to pay, and they're at risk that you won't pay them that negative amount. So it's in their benefit to make sure that you still make a profit. So absolutely, they're going to let you know. Gary asks, what changes in parameters would trigger the need to change the cover? So if you change any of your trim sizes, so if you go from 5x8 to 6x9, you're going to need to have a new cover designed specifically for the 6x9 trim size. If you are more than about 10 pages plus or minus, that may trigger a need. It really goes down to like a couple millimeters at a time, but generally it's somewhere around 10 pages difference that can require you to have a new book cover. Trim sizes change cover, absolutely. Where is the calculator again? The calculator is atticus.io/Amazon-royalty-calculator, and it is linked in the description box below on the YouTube channel. If anybody is joining us from Facebook, I'm sure one of the wonderful moderators will be able to add these links into the Facebook group there as well. Actively formatting a book now without tables can confirm adjusting these things in Atticus is much easier. So glad. Really, really glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing. Will it calculate faster if you only adjust one thing at a time? Yes, typically the more changes you make to a page in Atticus, the longer it's going to take to re-render, because it has to do each of these changes one at a time. That's why I had to refresh at that point, because I had done too many things at once. This is also why typically we don't recommend writing in Atticus or making big changes to the content of your book with the print previewer on, because it has to render all of those changes at all times. So when you're doing specific experimentation like this, you have to see the print preview because you need to know that page count. You'll just have to have a little patience as you work through it. Please tell me if Atticus accepts story titles only, not chapter titles. I have trouble seeing your info on my phone. You can hide the chapter titles. So I did quickly kind of show that, but if you have Atticus open, you do have to put in a title, especially if you're publishing to EPUB as well. You do have to enter a title for the page, for the navigational TOC for the EPUB. If you're only publishing to print, you probably don't have to worry, but it does help you to navigate the left navigation panel here. But if you click the gear icon below the title, you can hide chapter heading, and that will remove the title from the page there. And then you can just have the story title. Hopefully that was what you were asking. If I answer a question incorrectly, or if I've misunderstood what anybody has been saying, just write another question in the comments box. What is the difference between indented and spaced? This is your paragraph, the difference in your paragraphs. So if you have indented, each new paragraph will start with an indentation, and the paragraphs will be one right after the other. If you have it on spaced, there will be no indents in your book, but there will be an extra large space in between each paragraph every time you press enter. Why did making the image element smaller, taking out chapter titles, and lowering chapter title font size increase the size of the book? I think that happened only because I had refreshed it and the page count was kind of all over the place. I didn't do everything in order, but it would have lowered the page count. I think that was my bad during the demonstration, but it definitely would lower the page count. Each of these individual items are going to be smaller one by one, but if you do them all at the same time, so for example, if you remove the chapter heading of every chapter in your book, it will have a bigger impact than if you just say remove the chapter number. That will have a smaller impact. I think, yeah, I just I did something when I had to refresh it. Sorry for the confusion there. Oh, yes, that is true. When I refreshed it, all of the other changes that I had done with the trim size and the line spacing, I hadn't saved the theme at that point. So that is why. Good catch, Kathy. Thank you. Are there automatic spaces before and after the seam break? There is not a space so much as a spacer. The difference is that you can't like delete it or remove it, but there is built into the seam break, there is spacing involved. If you are using Atticus and you have the new, and you're writing in scenes, this is a new feature. If you want to write in scenes, but you don't want to have a visible break in between these scenes, you can change your theme. So edit your theme. Down here in scene break settings, you can have your scene break with image, which is what Atticus used to have. That was the whole, that was everything that it used to have. Let me see. I think I have a scene break in this chapter. So let me just show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is with the ornamental image. This is what a scene break looks like. Again, I'm sorry, I don't know how well you'll see it on the live stream. You can now, however, change it to be a scene break without an image, and that is going to leave a larger space. So this is a scene break here without an image. It's just a larger space in between two paragraphs. However, if you are writing in scenes and you don't want there to be any visible scene break whatsoever, you can choose no visible scene break. And you can see here, there's no differentiation between the paragraph before and the paragraph after that scene break. So that is an option for you, particularly if you're writing in scenes and you like to move things around, but you don't need your reader to see that you've changed something there. I hope that made sense. Oh, I fully exited out of my entire book accidentally. Okay. Tamara or Tamra, sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. That's something that you're going to want to write into support about. That's specific to your book, and we'll have to look into that for you, but we absolutely will. Just write into support. Okay, confirm how to get to the calculator. Again, it is atticus.io/Amazon-royalty-calculator, atticus.io. It is linked in the box in the description below this live video. You're very welcome, Melody and Lisa. Thank you guys all for joining. I really hope this information has been helpful. Will this tutorial be online soon? I wasn't able to see everything today. Absolutely. As soon as I exit out of this live play or live stream, it will be on replay on YouTube. I'm getting tongue-tied now. So you can just refresh YouTube and it will be there as a replay you can watch from the beginning. Do you have a sense of how many authors will raise prices or a resource that is investigating that? I can't comment on how many authors are going to do what. I think it's really going to be a personal decision. I think the Atticus owners and everyone that has participated in this live stream today, you guys have the advantage in being able to check on what these changes will do. and maybe not have to raise your prices. Because if you can keep your margins relatively similar or even improve them depending on how you reformat your book, you may not have to raise your prices. However, I absolutely think there is going to be a lot of authors out there who don't really understand what has happened or why or how to fix it, and they just know that their margins were cut, so they're just going to knee-jerk reaction and increase their prices. In that sense, Atticus authors who are making these adjustments in their books will really have an edge on pricing, in my opinion. Again, there's going to be a take on this from all different sides. The resource I would recommend would be Kindlepreneur.com. They are really, really great at having kind of the cutting edge information. As soon as we know anything, as soon as the author industry knows anything, it is talked about on Kindlepreneur.com. So that would be the resource that I would recommend, but it really is going to be a mixed bag, at least for a while, I believe. I'm not sure what this was in regards to. No, you don't. I've changed my covers several times. I change my covers all the time. However, I am a cover designer, so that helps me. But in general, if you're paying a cover designer, I would suggest that you really want to make sure you make your decisions wisely and only change that cover once if you have to. Absolutely live YouTube session now as soon as it. Thank you very much, Crystal. Took the words right out of my mouth. Christian says, when using Atticus exporting to EPUB, are you always safe with the new changes? So these new pricing changes are specific to the print versions of your book. The EPUB pricing has not changed. In the future, I will do a similar workshop for this for maximizing EPUB pricing, but this price change is specific to print books. And no matter what settings you change in terms of print, it won't affect the EPUB. However, anything that you adjust in terms of line spacing or actually, no, not line spacing, paragraph, like the indent versus spaced paragraphs or chapter headings, anything that you change there for the print version of your book will also affect if you export a new EPUB. You can duplicate the theme and have a separate theme for print and EPUB. If you don't want to make any changes to your EPUB, you can do that. And then you just click the different theme before you export. Hello, Peg. It's nice to see you here. Are you thinking of providing themes that are prefigured to be ideally / reasonably economical? Unfortunately, that is nearly impossible, specifically because one person may be writing a book that is 30 pages long and another person may be writing a book that is 600 pages long, and everyone else is kind of in between. Whether you have images in your book or different specifications, it's really specific for each individual book. So that's not something that could really be included in Atticus. Sorry. Brett Monk says, does decreasing the paperback page number affect the Kindle page count? If your book is already published and you do not change, you don't upload a new EPUB, it will still be, it won't change anything about your EPUB. If you upload a new EPUB file, and like I said, if you've changed any of the chapter headings, settings, or any of the paragraph settings, anything like that, it will affect the Kindle page count as well. Any of the print settings do not. The Kindle page count, I believe, is based off of a calculation based on your words, I believe, because they don't have standard pages. Yes, exactly. Amazon will determine the true page count. They do have a formula. If you go into KDP, they'll tell you what the formula is. It's based on word count and how many words they assume is on average on a page, but then each individual user can adjust that for themselves. That doesn't affect. So if one person I always use the example of I can read the same book as my 96-year-old grandfather. I'll have it in tiny, tiny font size. He'll have it in like such large font size that it's 2 or 3 words per page. Him reading it at that 2 or 3 words per page does not increase your Kindle page count views. It's only based on the algorithm from Amazon, not the user settings. I hope that makes sense. Sherry says KDP itself is increasing the price for author companies for author copies of my books that have fewer than 100 pages. They are increasing author copies, absolutely. You will want to check out the FAQs page for more specifics about these changes. As I mentioned, author copies, I didn't talk about specifically, but if you're paying the same amount for a book that is just if you just add some more pages and you can increase the reader experience, or if you have a shorter book, if you can maybe, like if you're writing short stories, maybe add a few extra short stories to that book, something along those lines. That maybe make a difference. Author copies may be their specific own thing, so definitely check out the KDP FAQs for more details on that. Okay, so Frankie is clarifying the calculator says choose large trim if your book is 6.12 or 9 inches in. So okay, I understand what you're saying there. If you look at the FAQs in the KDP, they will show you exactly all of the different changes there. So you may want to check that out. Does the Amazon update apply to all standard trim sizes, or is the deciding factor really about the number of pages? So standard trim sizes are all treated like standard trim sizes. They're a fixed price, and then the number of pages will change within the standard trim size. If you go up to large trim size, that will also be a fixed price. It will be a higher fixed price, and then the number of pages will change that as well. Yes, exactly. Trim, font size, line spacing will affect your page count, but it is within those 2 categories. So all standard books have a fixed rate in one way, and then all large trim books have another fixed rate. Yes, KDP absolutely has a price calculator. You can absolutely use yours. I don't have that one linked. This one, it just shows kind of the before and after, and it also gives some advice in this area here. It shows you what Amazon costs are. Just gives you a little bit different details, but they do absolutely have a price calculator. If you prefer to use theirs, you sure can. Okay, so we've been going for just over an hour here, so I'm gonna skim through the rest of these questions. I really appreciate you guys being so active in the comment section here and questions. If I don't get to all of the questions, continue writing them in the comments box. I do go back and respond to comments as well. And if you have any specific questions about your book, you can always write into support and we can help you as well. So things like what should my margins be? You're going to want to check with your publisher. It will be based on page size, or page number. The more pages in your book, the larger the margin has to be. KDP will be able to tell you what that should be. And that's just to accommodate the crease of the book. Will the calculator be included in Atticus itself? No, it is. It's not in Atticus, the app, the program. It's on our website. That would have been a much bigger undertaking to make sure it didn't affect anything else in the program. If your final chapter isn't showing up, or if any chapter in your book is not showing up in the print preview, that usually means something isn't quite formatted right. You can write into support. We'll be able to help you out with some troubleshooting there as well. How can we add the new theme? Yes, if you just go on to like just re-click onto my YouTube or the Atticus YouTube channel under lives, I've done 2 live streams talking specifically about all of the newest updates, including themes um, and everything else that has changed in Atticus. But if you go to atticus.io/tutorials, there's also written tutorials with screenshots showing you, walking you through the entire process of creating themes and formatting your book as a whole. That would apply to you as well, Deborah. If you check out our website, the text tutorials might be very helpful. So atticus.io/tutorials. If anyone is having trouble with the PDF specifically, you can write into support and they'll be able to help you there. If we place the title of the story in the header, how do we determine what to do with a new story? Does Atticus make the change to apply only to each specific story? So with the header options, you can choose from a few different varieties. It will either be chapter title or author or book title in the header. You have to stick to the options available. So it really depends on how you have your book formatted. Thank you, Anne. Welcome from Cape Town. I'm glad this was helpful. It seems like a couple of you are commenting on each other, which is fantastic. And yes, I think I've gotten to the bottom of most of the comments. I haven't shown all of them or commented directly on them, but I think I got all of the questions there. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate you being here. I hope this was helpful. I hope you're all going to dive into Atticus and do some experiments with your books and the trim sizes and page counts. And I hope you all have just wonderful profit margins and incredible sales on your books moving forward. Thank you again for being here. Remember to click the notifications bell if you haven't already, so that you will always be notified when I come on and do any other workshops, live tutorials, or just release a new video on our YouTube channel. Thanks again. I really appreciate it, and I wish you guys all a very wonderful weekend. Take care, everyone.